welcome, 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 welcome. So I am Janai Thornton, and I am super excited that you are here for our Think Me Later session on astrology. And this is falling under our Think Me Later mindfulness series. So Tiana, who's part of our team, had this idea of, instead of January, we're just going to get out here and get focused on goals right away, that we were going to kind of take a step back and focus on mindfulness, because that will help us get better in tune with ourselves, but also get better in tune with our relationship with money as well. So as soon as we knew that we were going to do that, I was like, oh my God, I know exactly who we need to talk to. There is no question about who we have to talk to this evening. So we are so glad that all of you are here. This is our first time talking to astrologer in the Think Me Later community. This is the first time we've had a man in the Think Me Later community. That's a big deal in and of itself. I was like, man, this is it. So Will, you are super, super special.
Right.
And so this evening, ladies, please mute yourself.
I just joined a Zoom meeting I forgot about.
Okay. Can y'all mute people automatically? Lauren,
Okay.
Tiana, thank you.
Talk to you soon.
All right.
Hey, Janai, you're muted.
Thought I couldn't unmute myself. Sorry about that. So what we're going to do tonight is make sure that you have a basic understanding of astrology. So the basics, and then understand how it helps you understand yourself better. Once you understand yourself better, then of course you can understand the people around you better too. And then for those of us who in our families call it a consistent problem, call it a generational curse, particularly in the context of our relationship with money. You know, a lot of us, we look to our parents and grandparents like we are duplicating the same exact thing. We have a lot of the same fears. We have a lot of the same problems. Like, what is all that about? So tonight, Will is going to allow us again to get to know ourselves better, for us to be able to connect with ourselves better, because the better we are, the more we know about ourselves and our skill sets, the better more of a full life that we can live, and certainly that has some impact on our finances. So we're going to have some engagement. You're certainly going to need your cell phone for our engagement. I don't know if you've ever used Mint Tea before, so get your cell phones out, ladies. I know y'all got them close. And so get ready to have your questions for Will, so that way you can engage with him. So let me tell a story about how I met Will. So Will, I don't know, maybe it's been about 4 or 5 years now, I think, that we've known each other. Yes. So for about the last 10 or 12 years, I've traveled with this group of women to a spa. So Tucson, Arizona, Canyon Ranch. Like, this is the place on earth that I love more than any place else. So top 5, 10 spot in the world, right? So amazing place. So not just massages and all that, but it's a holistic place. So I've been going several years, and then I'm there and I'm like, why is this Black guy here? Like, I had never seen anybody Black working there before. I'm like, where did this guy come from? So, Will, I think you and I initially met on a hike. You were leading a hike.
Yes.
And then when I found out, I'm a huge fan of numerology. So then you were the numerologist, you were the astrologer. I'm like, why is this Black guy here at one of the most amazing spas in the world? And he is the astrologer and numerologer. Like, this can't be real. So then we meet. So then, of course, I started seeing you every single year, and then also engaging with you when I wasn't at Canyon Ranch. And so I know you have 20 plus years of experience with astrology. And then I just love the fact that I was like, He's from Cleveland. He went to Hampton. I'm like, how was an astrologer from Cleveland and went to Hampton University? Like, you kind of have a mindset of who we think astrologers are and what they do. So I was just always grateful for the insight that you've provided me and the friendship that we have been able to cultivate over the number of years. Everybody in my circle, my travel circle and my work circle, my personal friends, I think just about everybody talks to you now. But I have just been always grateful for the insight that you provided me and how much I've learned about myself since having an opportunity to work with you. So welcome to Thank Me Later.
Thank you.
And welcome to our mindfulness series. And I am so excited. So ladies, you got to get your questions together. And you just have to be really open tonight. Just again, it's going to be very introspective and we're going to learn a lot. So Tiana, I'm going to kick it over to you. And I am excited about our first astrology session. You heard what I said, Will, our first, indicating that there will be more.
Yes.
So Tiana, if you could get us kicked off with Will, and then again, this is going to be very conversational. And of course, we have a ton of questions for you.
Yeah, so for sure. So hey, everybody, what we're going to do is we're going to break it up, get some engagement. So before we get started, we want
Tiana, we can't see you. Where are you?
You can't see me?
No.
I see myself though.
Okay, maybe because you're not pinned. I'm like, where are you, girl?
I thought I pinned myself too.
I see her, Janai.
You do. Okay. No, I just want to make sure I didn't see you. All right. Sorry about that. I'm like, where is she? I want to make sure people see you.
Let's make sure everybody else.
Now I see. Now you're there. Okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
Good. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to ask a few questions. We've kind of broken up this session into 4 sections, but you guys feel free to ask questions as you see fit. So the first section is like an intro to astrology, just kind of setting the tone, hearing from our amazing subject matter expert, Will, about what astrology is, debunking some myths, things like that. And then we're going to get into how we can use astrology to learn about our skills, our strengths, our talents. And then we're going to get into using it as an everyday tool. And lastly, some forecasting. So we may not get to all the questions because we have so much we want to talk about, but that's kind of where our mind is to start off this session. And so just to let everybody know, the Menti tool that we will be using is kind of the signal that we will be starting a new section. But feel free to get your questions in. Feel free to drop them in the chat. And then, if there is something that you want to get off of mute, feel free to raise your hand and we'll open to, you asking your question live if you'd like to. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and then we can jump into the Menti questions. So for Menti, you're going to need your phone out. And can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So if you all go to www.menti.com on your phone and type in this code, and I'm going to do it as well. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. So menti.com, and then answer the question, what is your astrological sign and traits associated with it? So high level, if you know your sign, if you don't know your sign, you could just say NA, not sure. But if you know your sign, if you're a Cancer and people say that you're sensitive, that's the type of thing, whether you agree with it or not. We just kind of want to gauge what you all know about astrology and horoscopes in particular, and what traits are associated with that. All right. So we have Pisces, they're dreamers and givers. We have Leo, leader, loyal. We have Geminis, moody, chatty, questioning, social. Any of my fellow Aries, no Aries on the board. Let me put mine on there then. I gotta represent for the fire signs. Feel free to
I'm with you, Kiana. I just don't have my phone.
Okay, we in there though. We in there, Nikki. We in there.
Okay.
All right. Any more? I'm gonna put mine on there because I do want Aries to be represented. All right. So that's okay. We got some more. Nice. So these are great. And then, oh, you guys are still keep them coming. Keep them coming. While we're adding those, Will, is there anything in particular? I guess my first question is like, how true are the information that's published about some of these signs? Like, how much should we actually take and believe? You know, just kind of your thoughts on what should we actually associate ourselves with as it relates to our signs?
Definitely. So I'm looking at some of the answers that are scrolling across the screen, and I have to say that people are very versed in their signs. I would say that, yeah, the information that people are posting looks to be fairly accurate. And I will say that there a lot of the information about the 12 sun signs are pretty accurate. So I'm looking here, like, for example, Virgo being a perfectionist. And I guess, yeah, that would be somewhat true. It's not so much that Virgos are perfectionists, but they do seek to master information, and they are very detail oriented. So that those are definitely like perfectionist traits for sure. Looking at some of the other ones here, Aries, passionate, energetic. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I would say that a lot of the information that is posted about the sun signs is fairly accurate. Where you start to get into a little bit of deviation is when you start to get into individual horoscopes. And it really depends on the horoscope writer, you know, how well versed they are in astrology. And I will say that you can be a very good horoscope writer, and there's times in the year where your horoscopes will be less accurate than at other times. So I would say that if you're reading about your signs, say in a book, then more than likely you're getting very accurate information. But if you're going off of a daily horoscope, you really want to pay attention to your horoscope over a period of time, just to determine how accurate it is going to be for you.
Gotcha. And if we could take a step back, and I just kind of wanted to throw that out there to get some engagement, but
Sure.
let's take a step back. Like, what is astrology and how can it be helpful to us? And if you want to share any like brief origins, just so that we have the foundation of what exactly this is.
Definitely. So to me, astrology is many things. It's a language. It's a language that I use frequently every day. But primarily it is one of the first sciences. And we can actually think about it as our first attempt our first attempt to understand ourselves. And so in a way, it has a lot of similarities to psychology. And what I tell people is that, you know, when you get an astrology reading, it is like sitting with a psychologist. Only difference is this psychologist has a record of your past and also the potential forecast of your future as well. So it's like the psychologist is coming into the room having already sort of known you from being able to look at your astrology chart. And when we talk about the origins of astrology, astrology dates back to you know, one of the earliest civilizations, the Sumerian civilization that was in the Mesopotamia region of what is now known as like the Middle East. So Iraq, Iran, that region. And as that region began to develop and societies, cultures began to develop, the knowledge of astrology was passed down from the Sumerians down through other cultures in that region, down through the Babylonians. And eventually we see it ending up in Alexandria through Alexander the Great when he conquered that region. And so it has a very old history. And we see a lot of other sciences sort of branching off of astrology. So when we talk about astronomy, Actually, astronomy and astrology were pretty much the same discipline at one time. And then at one point throughout time, astronomy split off from astrology. And so for those of you who would want to know the difference, astronomy is basically the science of the physical properties of the universe. So we're concerned with, the size of planets, how far they are from Earth, things of that nature, their orbits. In astrology, we are more so adding personality to the planets. So we're personifying these planets, and we're utilizing that information to be able to overlay it over our lives, if you will. And so just as you would go to, say, a psychiatrist or a psychologist who has been, who studied and well-versed in psychiatry and has, studied these books, someone like myself, an astrologer, has studied the motion of the planets, throughout my life, and how that translates to actual occurrences in our lives here on Earth.
So, well, let me ask you this. I don't know if it can be as simple as true or false. So, we know our signs, and most of us know the traits related to our signs. Are there certain signs that have a better relationship with money than other signs, or is that just more of an individual thing?
Okay, so this is a difficult one to answer, but I will say no, there's not one sign that is better with money than the other. There's what happens in astrology. We all sort of know our sign. When you ask the question, what is a person's sign?
Right.
What that is that's telling us where the sun was and what sign the sun was at the time of your birth. But as an astrologer, I'm looking at much more than your sun sign. I'm looking at where the moon was at the time of your birth, where the planet of Venus was, okay? And especially when we talk about money and finance, the planet of Venus is very important. It is the planet of love, it is a planet of beauty, but it is also the planet of finance as well. So you could be a Virgo who is somewhat of a perfectionist, but if you're having, say, challenges with your Venus sign, that may hinder your ability to really be a perfectionist as it applies to finances. And so there are a number of different factors outside of our sun sign which determine whether we're going to be good with money or not.
And a follow-up question for that, Will, are there certain traits or characteristics, whether it's like their personality or energy, of people who do well or attract a lot of money into their life?
Yeah, I would say that there are some general traits that I do see running through people's charts. Very successful people typically will have challenges in their charts. We all have challenges in our charts, okay? Such challenges as fear, such challenges as sort of, working against our own efforts. But it's the people who don't let these challenges stand in their way. They don't let these challenges stand for long periods of time in their lives. But they really work to try to understand their challenges and work through their challenges. Those are usually the people that I see who are living the most successful or the most beneficial aspects of their charts.
And then just for context, just want to make sure everybody is on the same page. Could you talk a bit about what a birth chart is?
Sure.
Yeah, and so how you read it.
Okay, for sure. So a birth chart is really a snapshot of the planets and their position at the time of your birth. So it's like you're born and we take a picture of where all the planets are. And that really becomes sort of your blueprint. And so it's from that picture that we can see your gifts, things that you're really good at naturally, and things that come sort of organically to you. And we can also look at some of the challenges that you face as well. And by dissecting the challenges, we can really help you to sort of work through those challenges, right? And turn those into strengths in your life. And so really that's what, I do on a consistent basis, is help people work through their challenges and also help them to understand and highlight their gifts as well.
Well, can I ask a question? Because you talked about Venus and how it's important to kind of know where Venus. So everybody on this call, 27, 30 of us, and we want to know, how do we find out where Venus is? What kind of decisions do we need to be making? What do we need to be considering and making major financial decisions in 2022?
Yeah, where the heck is Venus, Will? Please, yes.
Where is Venus? Well, right now, Venus in the sky, what it is doing is it is going retrograde. And a Venus retrograde is a time when Venus appears to be going backwards in its orbit. And remember, I said Venus is the planet of love and beauty and also finances as well. And it's during these retrograde periods of Venus, which happen about once every 2 years, where we may have certain factors come up in our financial world. So if you're looking around and things have been sort of going haywire in your finances over the past, say, 3 weeks or so, I would say that it's Venus retrograde, just sort of restructuring matters in your life. Give it a couple weeks and things should sort of pan out. Also, too, this is a time where you may see past love relationships pop into your life. So if there has been, say, an ex or someone that you've been, had seen at one time and they've sort of popped back in within the past, say, couple weeks or so, more than likely it's just Venus retrograde. They're coming back in to bring some resolution to the relationship, and then they're going to leave again. Okay, that's sort of what.
Go ahead, Will. I'm sorry.
Oh, and I was going to add, when you want to understand how Venus works in your own birth chart, what you want to do is you want to find out, like whenever you were born, what sign Venus was in. That's going to be a helpful start. I will also say too, for those of you who want to take a look at your birth chart, you can go online to a website called astro.com, and it allows you to put your birth information in. You're going to need your birth date, your place of birth, city and state, and you'll also need your time of birth. And you plug that into that website there, and it'll show you a picture of your birth chart. And then I would suggest getting a book or some type of companion guide to be able to decipher, what your actual Venus sign is.
And Will, for people who don't know their time of birth, what should they use?
I would use 12 noon as the time of birth. It gives you sort of the midpoint of the day, and it'll put you at least, I think, strategically a little closer to your actual birth time by using 12 noon.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got a few questions in the chat, Tiana. I'm not sure if you.
Yeah, I was. Oh Lord, sorry. My fire alarm in my house about to go off.
Like you said it, Tiana. I'm thinking it's me over here. I'm looking around like, man, what alarm is going on?
It would be the time I took myself off mute. So LaShonda asks, does the planet, example, Mercury in retrograde, have an effect on the access of money? And then also in that, I'm going to add, I feel like we hear a lot about Mercury in retrograde. So you can answer LaShonda's question, but then also just like, as you explained, Venus in retrograde, what does it mean for Mercury in retrograde?
And Will, when I was almost interrupted you is because please define retrograde. People are using this term all the time. Please tell us what this means.
Definitely. So retrograde means backwards motion. So it, typically a planet will go one direction in its orbit. It will go, forward. But occasionally, and this time frame is different for different planets, but occasionally a planet will appear to go backwards in its orbit for a short period of time. And that temporary period of time is known as the planetary retrograde. And depending on what the planet is, it's going to determine how that retrograde is going to have an effect on us. So for example, I was talking about Venus retrograde. It's the planet of love and beauty that will bring past relationships back in our lives, usually past relationships that have been left unresolved. When we talk about Mercury, Mercury is a planet of thought and communication primarily. And so it is this area where we typically see the greatest challenges during a Mercury retrograde. So when we talk about all the things that Mercury rules, Mercury is the ruler of not only thought and communication, but all of our communicative activities. Okay, so speaking, reading, writing, things of this nature. Mercury also rules our communication devices as well, and also, you know, computer devices, technology. And so you will see times where, you know, communication devices will go down, entire networks will go down during a Mercury retrograde. Mercury is also the planet of travel as well. And so there will be some challenges that we will see with travel and also, you know, transportation during the Mercury retrograde. And so when we talk about the Mercury retrograde and money, the problem with the Mercury retrograde is that it really sort of jumbles up information for us. So it's not really a great time to say sign documents. It wouldn't be a great time to open up a new account. It wouldn't be a great time to make any important financial decisions. If you can avoid them during a Mercury retrograde, you definitely want to do that, especially if this is going to be something that is new. So for example, if you're going to purchase a new home, if you're a first-time homeowner, or purchasing a home for the first time, you definitely don't want to do that during a Mercury retrograde. Don't want to sign any contracts or anything like that, because there's a good chance that the information in that contract will be incorrect, or there will be something else surrounding the matter that would have to go back and be changed at another time. Yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah,
no,
that was
it doesn't.
perfect.
All this, Tiana, I'm glad that people are dropping that in the chat, because that's such a thing. You know, Mercury retrograde, just retrograde as whole. I'm like, what are these people talking about out here? What does this mean for real?
We
Yeah,
have another
it can be a
question
challenging time.
in the chat. Doesn't have a name, but Zoom user asks, what is the difference between sun, moon, and rising?
Yes, that is a great question. So again, when we asked the question what your sun sign is, most of you were telling us, or all of you are telling us what your sun sign was, where the sun was, what sign the sun was at the time of your birth. And I always tell people your sun sign is like a light that you yourself shine upon the world. And so it's more an energy that other people actually get from you than what you get from yourself. And so when we talk about the sun sign, it has more to do with your identity, and it has more to do with your ego energy. Okay, so when you want to get a sense of how someone projects their ego energy into the world, then we're definitely going to focus on their sun sign. When we talk about the moon is much more an internal energy, and it actually is more so how we perceive or see ourselves. The moon is the seat of your emotions. It shows how you yourself nurture, and also how you need to be nurtured from others. It is a deeply personal planet. And we can take a look at your sun sign and the relationships that it makes with other planets in your chart. And we can tell a lot about how you were raised. So we can talk a lot about your upbringing, and if you received the type of nurturing that you needed as a child. And if you didn't, we can give you suggestions on how to receive that nurturing as an adult. But the moon is a much more personal planet, and really it's more so the seat of our emotions. And then the rising is going to be, and the rising is really determined on what time of day that you were born. And the rising has more so to do with your body language. It is the sign that was on the eastern horizon at the time of your birth. So whatever time that you were born, whatever sign that was coming up over the eastern horizon is going to be known as your rising sign. And that rising sign has more to do, like I said, about your body language. And so how you carry yourself in situations even before you speak. And it is actually a very important relationship point as well, because it really is some truth to be said about love at first sight. Sometimes you can walk into a building, walk into a room, and someone can connect with the energy of your rising sign. And that's enough to really spark a meaningful relationship. So those are the difference. And the other thing, the sun is obviously a planet, a heavenly body. The moon obviously a planet, a heavenly body, but the rising sign is not, it is a point. Okay, so it is not going to be like actually something that we physically can point to, or we can point out with a telescope like we can the sun and the moon.
Gotcha. Thank you for explaining that. We have a few questions about Mercury in retrograde, going back to that. So McCall asked, in a similar question from Kim, I'll read both of them. McCall asks, yes, how often is Mercury in retrograde and how would we know when it is? And then similar question, Kim asks, may you repeat when Mercury in retrograde is taking place?
Okay, so and I should have had my Mercury retrograde. I'll get those dates for you for the Mercury retrograde here momentarily, but I will say that Mercury retrogrades typically happen about 3 times a year, and they typically last for about say 3 to 4 weeks when we're talking about just the retrograde itself. And then each retrograde is sort of bookended by a shadow period. So before Mercury retrograde starts, we have the actual slowing down of Mercury. That is one shadow period. And then after the Mercury retrograde, we have sort of a speeding up of Mercury. That is the other shadow period. And these happen about 3 times a year. Now, if you want to know year after year when the Mercury retrogrades are going to be, you can just go online and Google Mercury retrograde in the particular year that you want to find where the Mercury retrograde is. And it's typically posted because Mercury retrograde has become such a popular topic that a lot of websites will post the Mercury retrograde periods for the year.
The schedule. A couple more things, Will, before we transition into the next section. Someone asked a really good question, and I'm a huge fan of numerology. So what's the difference between numerology and astrology?
That's a great question. So when we talk about numerology, astrology, tarot, all of these sort of metaphysical skill sets, what you're talking about is the use of different tools to pretty much do the same thing. Okay, so as an astrologer, I'm using astrology charts that give me a picture of the planets. And from the arrangement of planets that I see, I can share information with people about their past, about their present, and also about their future. I can do this for people, I can do this for places, I can do this for countries. And this is what astrology allows me to do. With numerology, you're working with simply a set of numbers. It is, I would say the tools that you're using in numerology are a little more simplified because you're primarily just using the numbers 1 through 9 and then also 0 as well for some. And it's really about the combination of numbers that you're analyzing. So we're taking like names and we're converting the letters to numbers. And then from the way we're adding the numbers, we're getting certain information for a person. I would say that depending on the practitioner, oftentimes astrology is going to give you more detailed information than numerology would. And so the main differences is
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say this. The main difference is the use of tools and probably the level of detail information that you could receive.
And just because you mentioned tarot cards, just how does that work?
Okay, so the tarot is a deck of cards that has pictures on it, right? And these pictures depict certain scenes, and within these pictures and within these scenes, there are other smaller little pictures, right? And all of these pictures have meaning. They're symbols, if you will. Now, the way I learned tarot and the way I encourage other people to learn tarot is to assign your own meaning to those symbols and make the deck your own. I was taught every tarot deck comes with a little book, a little booklet with it, and it gives you certain meanings of the cards. The way I was taught tarot is that you open up the pack, you take out the book, you throw it in the trash, and then you start working with your cards, okay? So you do what feels most comfortable for you, but what it does is it allows you to sort of develop your own relationship with the cards, because it's, for me, tarot is all based on feeling. And so, depending on the question I'm asking, when I throw the card down, the image that I see, how does that make me feel? What are some of the first thoughts that come to my mind? Okay. And as I begin to lay cards out, and I'm constantly asking questions, I'm getting answers as I put the cards down. I'm recognizing and reading how I'm feeling and what's coming across, what resonates with me. And, before you know it, you have sort of a story or a message. And then, that's what you use to share with others or just use for yourself.
Love that. Tiana, you want to transition us into the next section?
Yeah, so we're transitioning to the next section. I do see that there's some other questions. So some of those questions do align with the next section. So we'll get back to you guys on those. All right, I'm going to share my screen.
So if you came in late, pull out your cell phones. You want to go to minty.com and type in this code 43454108. And you want to answer the question.
Yep, and I'm skipping to the next one. It's giving me a little trouble. Hold on, guys, sorry.
Can I just take a moment just to say something really quickly before we go too far away from the signs? So I just wanted to say that when we study the zodiac as an astrologer, when you study someone's chart, it isn't a circle. In Western astrology, we use a circular chart in which we see all the signs pretty much in a circle. And the significance here is that all signs are pretty much equal, okay? Each sign is a part of a greater whole. And when you really get into astrology and you really get into the signs, you will see that each sign represents another part of the human existence. And so, for example, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. Aries has rulership over the head, okay? Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It has rulership over the feet. And so every single sign, okay, makes up a part of the human, if you will, or the human experience. And so I just wanted to sort of share that there is really the way it's all set up. Each sign is bringing something to the table, and when we put all of these signs together, we really get the full picture of our entire human experience.
Thank you for that. Because I think sometimes there are, I'm one of them, be like, oh, Team Aries. And it's like, we're all here, y'all. Don't do that. Okay, so next question from Minty. So we want to get into the next section about using astrology as a tool to learn more about yourself, your strengths, your skills, things that come naturally to you that you may not be aware of. So if you go to minty.com, type in the code, if you're just joining, or if you could just refresh the page that we did the previous one, if you partake in that one, and just take a few minutes and jot down, what are some of your strengths that come naturally to you, whether you're monetizing them at this moment or not. We want to just kind of know what comes natural to you. What do people say that you're good at? Things like that. So we'll take a few minutes for that. And then we do have a follow-up question in the same vein. So what do we have? We have some folks good at public speaking, writing, cooking, entertaining, making cocktails. I love that. Being a good friend, research, finding information, solving problems, being personable, level-headed, seeing both sides of the situation. And I'm not an astrologist, but it sounds like that person is a Libra. If I knew something. I don't know anything, but it sounds like that person is a Libra. Public speaking, helping others, communication, organization, listening. These are great. Thanks, guys. So we're going to skip to the next one. Oh, you guys can keep them coming though. Wait, let's give you guys a minute. Event planning, optimism, being organized. Whoever wrote that needs to talk to me and Janai because we need your help.
For real. For real.
Being a natural mom, that sounds like a Cancer. I'm just putting my projections on y'all. Y'all don't listen to me. Okay, so the next question. Oh,
And I just want to say really quickly, these are all great skill sets that people are pointing out. And the fact that you can identify those skill sets, you don't have to wait for your astrologer to tell you that, that you need to put those in use. I mean, that's really what feels natural to you, what feels right to you, what people always compliment you on is more than likely your skill set. And something that you may need to elevate. Sometimes sometimes things come so natural to us that we make the assumption that everyone can do these things, that they come natural to everyone. But in truth, that's not really the case. And so really learn how to shine a light on yourself and celebrate your gifts, because really it's the part of us that makes us special that really is like the skill set that we need to advance in life. And that's one of the things that astrology is very good at. It's very good at defining what your individual gifts are and really showing you how to use that individual skill set to your own advantage. And I'm sorry, Tiana.
Right. Oh, no, you're good. I was on mute. I was on mute. So can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so follow-up question. So if you are aware of your gifts and talents, strengths, are you monetize them or do you have plans to? So again, this session, our goal is to help you have a different perspective and a better understanding of astrology and, see how you could leverage up on this information to potentially monetize or to just kind of lean into it a bit more. So if you guys can jot those down, if you are aware of your gifts. So someone said, I'm a giver and have a hard time monetizing my skills and just give it away. But what comes easy to you? Oh, what was you about to say?
Yeah, I want to take that first one on for a moment because that is a big issue, especially with, I'm sure a lot of people in a lot of different industries, but I definitely see that in the metaphysical industry, especially when people are starting out. They have a real hard time in pricing their skills and coming up with a pricing list. And so, that can be a big one for people. How do you put a price on something that comes natural for you, or something that you really love to do? One message that I would like to convey to everyone, if I could, I think it's so important when dealing with money that we not focus on money. Okay. Because money, very few of us really want money for money's sake. Very few of us want to acquire $1 million so we can stack it in the corner and just look at it. Money is it's a form of exchange, right? And so it really the value of money really happens on the end. Okay, so for example, if you buy a house for $1 million and the house is definitely not worth $1 million, you're not going to feel like you got your money's worth, and you're going to feel like you threw $1 million in a hole. Okay, but if you get a house that is for $1 million, you get a house and you think, wow, I would have paid $3 million for this house, right? You feel like your $1 million went far. Okay, and it's not because the $1 million was more of $1 million in this situation than in this situation. It really was because of what you were purchasing, okay, and what you got for your money. And so I think we should be focusing not so much on the money and how much money it's going to take to do something, but we need to be focused on that thing that we are trying to do. Okay, so it's much easier if you're not a financial person, if you're not financial minded, if you don't have a history of financial education, if your parents and your family members were not great at handling money, then when you put it in terms of, well, I need to make this much money, it's going to be a little too daunting for you. But if you know that you're very good at helping people, if you're a caregiver, if let's say you care for children and that's what you love to do, then find a bunch of children that need your care. Okay. And that is going to be the motivation to get you up and get you motivated and get you in a position to be financially prepared to do what you love to do. So I just wanted to let people know that a lot of times when we take our mind off the money and place it more on the intent or the purpose or the end outcome, it's a lot easier to think in those contexts than it is to think in terms of, well, I need to get this amount of money. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, that was really helpful. And if you could talk a bit, Will, about how can astrology help us discover our gifts, unique gifts and talents? So some of us have an idea, some of us may not be aware of all. You know, how can astrology help us learn more about ourselves?
Okay, definitely. So the first thing astrology can do is it can confirm for you what you already know, right? So you already may feel that I have this gift. And so astrology can actually show you that, yes, you do have this gift. It was written in the stars, okay? And yes, you are a natural at it. So be confident and go out and charge forward and do it. But astrology can also open you up to a world of gifts that you may not be aware of. Okay, so that is another possibility as well. There have been plenty of people that I've talked to, and as we get to digging through their chart, we realize, wow, you've got this whole skill set over here that you're not even using, right? And you can use this to your benefit. So this may be a hobby, this may be a second business. So it really is about diving into defining those gifts and also coming to someone else outside of yourself who can kind of show you, well, you got this skill set too, okay? Also, another important thing that astrology can do is it can show us where we are challenged, where we kind of get in our own way, okay? A lot of people I see time and time again are dealing with issues of fear, and those issues of fear are controlling their actions. They're preventing them from being as confident as they normally would. It prevents them from making decisions that they need to make. And so by knowing where you are challenged, and hearing how to work through those challenges, having step-by-step a process to work through those challenges can be very helpful every time those challenges arise. A lot of times people are dealing with issues such as fear that will come up around money, right? Another thing that astrology offers as well is astrology offers a sense of timing. Okay, when we talk about, it's a season for money or it's a season for love. Okay, astrology can actually give us sort of insight into when those windows of opportunity will open for us. Okay, because every day is not going to be, or every year is not going to be necessarily the best financial year for you. But if you know about those 1 or 2 years where you should be more aggressive, financially, that can really be a big game changer for you. Okay, and there are seasons for all of us when we are more likely to attract finances, resources, property into our lives. And so if we know that ahead of time and we can begin to prepare for these times, then we will have the advantage that we need.
Well, based on what you just said, so how often should somebody get a reading, or is it quarterly? Is it once a year? Based on what you said, like being able to make decisions based on what's going on with
Definitely.
you personally.
I think it really depends on the individual. But when I say that, I mean, it really depends on what you're using astrology for, right? If you're using astrology to, just get a picture of the year ahead, you may, get astrology reading once a year at the beginning of the year. Get a 12-month forecast. And so you can, see what's going on over the next 12 months. But for those of you who may be using astrology for, say, business purposes, financial purposes, you may want to come a little bit more frequently. You may want to come once every quarter, okay? And it really depends. For some people, they may have special situations taking place in their lives. There may be a health issue that you're dealing with. There may be some property matters that you're dealing with. Let's say this is going to be a year where you're trying to sell a house and you're also trying to purchase another house or build a house. And so there's going to be a lot going on. And so you may, come to your astrologer a little bit more frequently when you have these types of events that are taking place. So to answer your question, I say it's up to the individual. But for my client base, I pretty much have clients that will come to me anywhere from once a year to about once a month.
Okay. Thank you. That was helpful.
That's very helpful. Well, when you think about, gifts and talents or a particular calling, is there a consequence or a price that we pay when we ignore that? So if, we know certain things come to us very naturally and we're just, whether it's fear or whatever it is, we're ignoring it and we're over here doing something else.
Yes, there are consequences. I don't want to make them seem like they are dire consequences because that's not necessarily the case. But what I have seen is that your birth chart has all its potential, right? When you're born into this world, there's all these wonderful pathways that you can take, and you can really, if you were able to make all the right choices at the right times, you could really see in this chart how your life could really be so super wonderful, expansive. And then you actually sit down with the person and their life didn't quite go that way. Okay. And that's sort of what happens when we allow such matters as fear to override our lives, when we allow other people to make decisions for us that we should be making for ourselves, when we choose to hide our light away from the world, when we choose not to go for those things that we are being encouraged to go for, that our souls are pushing us to do. It's as though we sort of create an existence that isn't as happy, isn't as wonderful, isn't as fantastic as it could have potentially have been. Okay. And so the key here that we want to take with us into this lifetime and every moment of this lifetime is how we are holding our thoughts. The mind is like a compass. It is going to, how we hold our thoughts is going to direct our outcomes, what we're going to see. Okay. So just remember that if you think positively, if you think that it is achievable, then you've given yourself the right first step in doing that. And I also want to say too that I have seen situations, and this is a little differently because we all have a karmic lesson. We all have a karmic journey that our souls are wanting us to participate in this lifetime. And it may have nothing to do with what it is that you do for a living. It may have nothing to do with your financial picture at all. For some people, this karmic journey, for example, someone's karmic journey, I think, let me use my own here for a moment. So my current karmic journey in this lifetime is to really move into a world of business, like to move into the outer world, if you will. My journey in the first half of my life was very personal. It was very much about the world of emotions, how I felt about things, family matters, things were happening in my internal life. And as I go forward in life, my focus turns away from those things of the inner world and move towards those things of the outer world. So this has been a progression for me to get to this point, to be serving the world in the way I do, to have this business that I do. Had I chosen not to move into my karmic direction, that would have probably had some consequences in my life. Who could I use for an example? Sometimes, and I'll give you an example this way. Someone like a Kanye West. Okay, Kanye West was born into this world, already focused on the outer world, always focused on fame, already focused on being popular, and that's because he had many past lifetimes where he was a very important person, where he was popular, where he was head of industry, where he was looked up to, if you will. And so he comes into this lifetime with that energy that's very natural to him. It's very natural, and it's always been sort of his energy to want to step out there and be seen and be recognized and be noticed. But in this lifetime, his karmic journey is actually to move to a place that is not in front of the world, but move into a more personal place, a more, a place of emotion and feeling. So when I see him moving into, more of the religious Kanye that you're seeing now, that is sort of that softer side. And he's going to continue to hopefully progress in that way. But sometimes when people, you have people like this who were sort of born on stage and their karmic journey is to get off of the stage, and they have a hard time relinquishing the fame. That's when you can see situations that happen in people's lives, mental health issues, health ailments. The universe will find a way to pull you off that stage if you're supposed to be off that stage, is my point. Okay. So
you just said a whole word. A whole word.
Ani, what was it? What did he say that resonated with you? What was it?
The universe will have a way of pulling you back. So you can be, obedient or choose not to be. Doesn't mean that, it'll get your attention one way or another. And that was a perfect example. Kanye, we all kind of have seen his life, and unfortunately some of the good and bad that's happened, but his perspective just now for what's going on in my life, I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Right. I'm being pulled off the stage right now. Ani is being pulled off the stage. And y'all continue to drop your questions in the chat, please. Because, it's really important to us that we give you opportunity to talk to people that you all would never normally have an opportunity to talk to. So please, please, please take advantage of it. Definitely do that.
We do have some questions that we missed. If you want to circle back to those. So sure. Yolanda asks, how do you go into relationships concerning your sign?
Look at Ani over there.
This, I will say one of the best uses of astrology is to figure out relationships. And to figure out what's going on, whether it be in an existing relationship or a relationship that you're looking at getting into, or a relationship that just didn't work out. Because we can really look at the chart of the relationship itself. If we take your birth chart and the other person's birth chart and combine the two, we create what is known as a composite chart, and this becomes a chart of the relationship. And we can see the challenges within the relationship, and we can also see the positive aspects of the relationship. We can tell if the relationship is going to be more of a short-term relationship, or we can tell if it's going to be a relationship that has longevity. We can even tell if a relationship is going to have a longevity, but is it going to be a positive longevity, meaning are you going to grow closer over time, or are you going to grow further apart over time? And so it really is about, what you really want to know. I mean, there's a wealth of information that you can learn from astrology and relationship. But it really is, what it is that you want to know. So if you're looking to, if you've met someone recently, you want to see if this is going to be a lifelong affair, definitely have an astrology reading done on the relationship for sure. But I want to make sure I'm answering the question. She wanted to know how I prepare for that.
For that particular question?
Yeah, for that particular question.
I think it was just a general question asking how astrology can determine relationships.
Oh yeah, it can really, and I tell you, if you are thinking about getting into a serious relationship, if you're thinking that you found someone that you're wanting to take it to the next level with, even to the place of marriage, I would definitely suggest getting an astrology reading, because sometimes, and we all know how relationships go. They can turn out a lot different than how they started, right? But through astrology, we can actually see how it's going to turn out, right? A lot of us get into these relationships. We're in that honeymoon stage. We want to be in love. We're all idealistic. But your astrologer will be able to sort of help you to sort of see some of the reality in the relationship.
Sorry, I'm laughing. People are dropping in their date of birth and their husband's date of birth. I'm over here. I'm sorry to distract you, Will. I am so sorry. Oh my God. One thing too, ladies, that I want you to think about that we've done as a team, as a company, is we've given Will all of our dates of birth. And he's done a composite across our company. And so you think about it, I'm all for love, I'm married, I think it's an amazing thing. You spend a lot of time dealing with the people who you work with. And talking about, that's a whole different level of intimacy and relationship. And we just learned so much with Will facilitating for us as a group. So I want you to think about that too, from whether it's a department, whether it's an entire company, that it will absolutely give you some insight about the chemistry and the folks. You just have a different understanding of people when you have an opportunity to do that. So I don't want you to think about astrology just for your life, but it's for your individual company, the company that you work for, any of that. It could be a tool. One thing Will and I have talked about quite a bit, during our relationship is, and Will, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's a quote by JP Morgan. So y'all know, like, the financial guy, and he said, millionaires don't have astrologers, billionaires do. And I think we all don't understand how much was at play when you're talking about people who are very successful, how much they lean into this science. So, I know a lot of it has been commercialized for us, your daily horoscope and all that other stuff. But there are people who have made very significant decisions, obviously, like being married, or what to invest in, or who to do business with, or launch this product or whatever, who would not make a move without getting, some insight. So, you think about people building a team. You have your attorney, you got your CPA, whomever, that the astrologer would be part of their actual team. And so I think it's just important to have, that perspective from a historical perspective. So Tiana, I'm going to turn it back over to you so you can transition us into our next section.
Yeah, we do have a few more questions that I do want to ask.
Okay.
LaShonda asks, how do you being in the return of a planet, i.e. Saturn return, affect money? And if you could also talk about what is a Saturn return?
Surely. So the planet of Saturn is a planet that represents structure and order. It represents, also on the flip side, it represents limitation and restriction as well. It is a very important planet when we describe the physical world. And when we talk about Saturn, just like the sun sign, just like the moon, everyone has Saturn somewhere in their charts, okay? And when we talk about a Saturn return, that is the point in time where Saturn has made one complete journey all the way around your chart and come back to the place it was at the time of your birth, okay? Most of us will live through 2 Saturn returns. A few of the lucky ones will live to 3 Saturn returns. The Saturn return is a time where you are being asked by the universe to take more responsibility for yourself and over your life. The first Saturn return usually happens between the age of 27 and 30. That is really the astrological point where we are all becoming adults. I know the world says we become adults when we're 18, but this is the point where most of us are taking a bigger step into being an active member or participant in society. And so it's usually around this time that most people are, getting into a serious relationship or marriage. People are starting their families, and people are sort of anchoring themselves into their careers by this time. And then we get to the second Saturn return. This is usually between the age of 55 and 60. And this is a time where we are now, we've given ourselves to society, and now we're starting to take more responsibility for our spiritual journey, if you will, what happens after we've kind of given our energy to society. And so oftentimes most people are becoming empty nesters. People are, looking at retirement from their careers, and other life events are taking place around that time. Now, as it pertains to money, and like I said, that first Saturn return becomes very important because that's usually the time where we are establishing ourselves in our careers or, in our career paths. And so it becomes a very important time to really know yourself, at least at that stage in your life, and sort of have a plan for your life for the next, say, 27 to 30 years, or at least to have the initial parts of that plan in place. The Saturn returns can be a little difficult at times for some people. It can be a little difficult at times to take that responsibility. I know that we've all sort of seen, heard about the 27 Club, the group of musicians, actors who sort of pass on around the age of 27, Jimi Hendrix, people like that. And it's because they are part of that sort of counterculture youth, and they just, on the soul level, don't want to take the responsibility of having to grow up and having to come into this adult world and take on these additional responsibilities. And so it's like, I want to keep it in the youthful stage, if you will. And so that's kind of what we see. But as far as money goes, it is an important time to take the decisions that you're making very seriously.
Gotcha. Thank you for that explanation. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll do 2 more Minty questions. I see some folks have already been filling those out. And then we'll just kind of open it up for Q&A. Ladies are dropping in a lot of great questions. So we will leave it there. All right. So last few Minty questions. What emotions do you attach to money? So we have a range of more positive experiences and emotions, not so positive. You can choose multiple ones, whatever you resonate with. So we see a few: freedom and empowerment, excitement. Love that the freedom and empowerment adding onto those. Nervous, adventurous, some scared, some depressed. In the Thank Me Later community, we're going to turn those emotions around.
I would say for those of you who are feeling nervous about money, it's going to be very helpful for you to identify what specifically makes you feel nervous. It's going to be helpful to really monitor the emotions and when the feelings of nervousness and anxiety arise, and to try to be as specific as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes our nervousness is, even though we're attaching it to money, it may have a deeper meaning. It may be connected. A lot of our money issues are connected to deeper issues of like self-worth, self-confidence, right? How we talk to ourselves, how we talk about money, how we talk about our lives. So I want you just to look for things that are going to be deeper than just the money. I really encourage you all to go deeper, to really hone in on what those negative feelings, was really causing those negative feelings.
And what are some tactical ways that people can go deeper and to get this? I'm assuming go reading, but
for sure.
In addition to that, what are some other things in your opinion that people can do to kind of tap into this other part of themselves?
For sure. So one, you want to identify when these feelings, these uncomfortable feelings are arising. Okay, do they arise when you're, at the cash register at the grocery store, or do they arise when you're at the line in the bank, or do they arise when you get, certain bills, at certain times of the month? Like, what is it that is causing? So identifying that. And then what you want to do is you want to sort of correlate these two feelings that you felt, or similar feelings that you felt as a child, okay, before you really got involved with money. Okay, what created nervousness in your life at that time, right? What made you nervous? A lot of times, things that make us nervous is we don't feel cared for, we don't feel protected, we don't feel safe. Okay, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of the issues that we have as children that are based on just nurturing and love and our relationship with our parents really become some of our greater issues, like money issues, later in life.
And Tiana and Will, there's a free assessment, and I'll share in the link, in the chat, ladies. And it's about assessing or finding your saboteurs. Like, how do you self-sabotage? It's really a really neat tool. It will take you maybe 10 minutes to do it. It was very insightful, very insightful. So I will definitely share that as well, because sometimes it just, ask a few questions and it'll give you the results.
Wonderful.
Will and Ani, when I hear y'all say that, what it makes me immediately feel is when you're feeling the feeling or thinking the thought, instead of just doing it, you're like, okay, why am I feeling this way? Like what's the situation? What's the circumstances? Now at least you have an awareness of it. And then you can begin to kind of talk to yourself about it. Is it really about the bill that I just opened? Like what's going on? And then paying attention to, well, how often am I doing this? How often am I feeling this way? Is it every time that I open my bills, or is it just a certain bill? Is it just my student loans? Like, what is it? Because those are the things I think, Will, that I hear you saying, that it's not about the bill or the money. There's something else behind it that's creating what the real issue is.
Yes. What happens in life is that a lot of us will develop our coping mechanisms early on in life. And we will also develop the things that we fear, right? We'll have sort of developed this blueprint of what we are attracted to and what we will back away from early on in life. And then when as we grow older, we just sort of put things as we come across them in these categories that we've created as children. Okay, so it really is about going back and sort of understanding what categories you created for yourself as a child and which ones you're still playing out now.
Love that. That's super helpful.
And Janai, I love how you guys are saying, but you have to want to do that too. And I think that's the difference. Sometimes when you're feeling that way, it's easy to be angry, upset, and be like it was them or whatever, it was that thing. But to really be able to say, wait, I want to know why I'm feeling this way, because you could be dead wrong too. And to be able to have to say, oh, I was wrong, that's hard sometimes. Because you're trying to internalize everything you're feeling, as well as, figure out the why, whatever that why is. And I'm on this personal journey myself, guys. So this is a whole lot, I will say. So I completely understand that.
Yeah.
I will also say too, there is nothing connecting us through our DNA to the financial situations of our parents in our past, right? There's nothing that connects us, DNA wise, and there's nothing that connects us like that in astrology as well. And I say that because what happens, that influence that we have, especially if it's whether it's positive or negative, it's a learned behavior, right? And anything that is learned can be unlearned. So just because your parents were not good with money does not mean that you have to suffer a lifetime of not being good with money either. Okay, so your individual situation is just that, your individual situation.
Thank you for that. I feel like that's very encouraging to know that, like, we're not destined to fail as it comes to money.
Yeah.
Sure.
I do want to share. I'm gonna share my screen one more time. Last Minty question. We dropped in the chat for you ladies to chime in if you've ever gotten an astrological reading. And so, last question: would you be interested in a discounted birth chart reading with Will? We have some yeses. Love it. So we are offering a promotion. Thank you, Will, for giving our community 15% off of a reading. Will, if you want to talk a bit about your company, we probably should have started there, but talk about that and the services that you offer and where they can find your website and information. We'll drop it in the chat as well. And then you can tell them about the promo code that you guys are offering for 15% off.
Definitely. So my website is Astral, ASTRAL, as in the star pattern, astrallifeastrology.com. And the promo code is Thank Me Later to receive the 15% off of your reading. And you can check out the menu of services that I do offer. I think right now I have about 6 to 7 services available. I do some of the more popular ones, Natal Astrology. That's where we focus on your birth chart and we highlight your gifts, highlight the challenges, and also work through the challenges. And also in that reading, we talk about your purpose as well in this lifetime. I offer relationship compatibility readings. I think on the website, I have it posted as an hour and a half, but I do have, hour sessions available, which would be, pretty much the same price as the most of the other readings. I do offer 12-month forecasts for those of you who are wanting to, learn a little bit more about the months ahead. And I also do subject-specific astrology. So if you have any specific questions that you want to just, address during our time together, we can certainly do that. I also offer a spiritual pathways reading. So we really focus not only on your spiritual purpose in this lifetime, but we also talk about windows of opportunity and also spiritual gifts that you would possess and how to sort of bring those to the fore. So those are some of the things, the types of readings that I do offer. I also offer like a hybrid, so we can mix and match services as well to best suit your needs. So yeah, for those of you who are interested, I would love to see you, and please use the promo code, and yeah, we'll get you started.
And so Tiana, just very briefly, because Tiana, you just had a reading with Will about what, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? So
Yes, I was going to share. I was excited.
yeah. Oh my God. So I worked with Tiana, I don't know what, about almost 2 years now have we worked together?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I felt like it was a kid who had just been to Disney World for the first time ever. I'm like, how can somebody grown be this excited right now? You left me the longest message in the whole world ever. And she was on not 10, she was like on 150. She was so excited. And I just kept telling her as we were preparing for the session, you need to talk to Will. You need to have a reading. You need to talk to Will. So she was like all the way up here. So your 2-minute version of, your experience and what it meant to you.
Yeah, for sure. And well, real quick, Will, is it Thank Me Later all together, or is it Thank Me Later spaced out? Does it matter for the promo code?
It's spaced out, but I can add the other one too. So I'll do both.
Okay, awesome. So you guys, I had such a great session, such a great reading with Will. I will say first, it was helpful that so I provided the information about when I was born, time of birth, etc. And I was very vague at first on what I wanted to get out the session. And then when I was talking to Janai, she was like, you should be a bit more specific. And so some of my focal areas, so I am single and I'm waiting for my time. And so that was a big focus for me. Also my family, and I own a home, but don't want to own that home anymore. So that was another area. And then career as well. And so I think that going back to Will's point earlier about feeling confirmation, it was a lot of that for me, where it was things, especially when we talk about my gifts and my skill set, it was things that I knew I was good at, but I think I didn't look at it as a true gift. And so for one instance, well, I remember you said that there was, that my relationships with people are essentially going to take me far, and to hone in on those. And that really resonated because I'm a natural people person. I'm extroverted. But I never really thought about seeing my relationships leveraging up on those. It just comes naturally to talk to people, to have this energy, but I didn't really see that as valuable as you helped me see. So that was really helpful. We talked about, I think what was also interesting is that in a reading, you'll get the information. It's kind of up to you to decide what to do with that and what that means. And so you mentioned something about a financial windfall, and I was like, you telling me to sell my house? Because I'm already planning to sell it. That's it. And Will's like, I mean, maybe let's look at the best times to sell. I didn't say that per se, but these may be the best times to sell. So that was helpful to say, if this is something that I'm going to do, which I still want to do, because the market is hot, knowing what windows of the year is best time to sell. Another really aha moment that I also brought up with my therapist, because this inner work, use it in conjunction with each other. With my desire to be in a relationship, you talked about being careful when I do meet that person, which I hope to meet them in 2022. When I do meet that person, not to put too much, like have the level of idealism. I think that was the word you used, of just having this idea of who this person is. And my therapist really resonated with that, because that's often what we talk about is my dating life. And she agreed that, like, if I meet this person, to not put these high expectations and put them on this pedestal. And I totally can see myself doing that. So now that I have this information, I'm able to, whenever that does present itself, act accordingly and show up in the best way. So y'all use this promo code, because I was so excited. I hope y'all hear the excitement in my voice, because I'm like reliving the session. And then it's amazing because Will gives you a recording. And so he gives you the audio recording and the video recording. And I took it a step further and I did a transcript so that I could read it.
Of course you did.
And you grabbed, Janai. I was like, "Ooh, let me transcribe this," because I started to watch it and take notes, and I was like, "This is too much. I'm just going to transcribe it so I can go read it again." So it really was very eye-opening, and like I said, confirmation in a lot of areas, but also helped me know how to like show up in different areas of my life. So that's my spiel.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. And Tiana, I think I've used it the same way too, just as, as a way to check in, with myself, what's happening. And when you're unsure of certain phases, or again, what your skills and gifts are, you're like, oh, okay. Sometimes you need somebody outside of you to confirm certain things for you. I think I appreciate Will, because what I thought astrology was and what it is with my experience with him is completely different, because your experience with him is very scientific to me versus like all this kind of pie in the sky type of stuff. I do well. I told him, you are like an economist to me. You are a historian to me. So I appreciate your full perspective on it. And you approach it like a science. And I'm very logical, kind of very logical, tactical. That's what I need. So I'm very, very appreciative of that. So I want you to take advantage of the promo code. And, please let us know about your experience if you're willing to share that. Again, just be open. I think it's a great opportunity to be open. There's a couple of questions that I do want to address, because someone said something about deja vu. And I was like, oh, that'd be interesting to hear Will's, for Will to explain deja vu. And well, let me tell you this in the context of this. My youngest son, Cameron, called me today. I could tell he was a little upset. He ran track for Texas A&M, and he found out that one of his track mates from when he was in school passed away yesterday from a car accident. But then he said, Mom, he said, it's crazy. He said, I was playing a video game yesterday, and this kid that passed away used to sing the same song while he was at the track. And I guess he was really kind of a goofy kid with a crazy sounding voice. He used to sing the song. And the song came on during the video game. And Cameron said he immediately thought of this kid. He started laughing. 10 minutes later, he got a text message that this kid passed away. And he was like, Mom, he's like, I don't even know what to do with how I feel. He said, because I was just laughing. I just thought about him. And then he literally got it. And I'm like, is that kind of like a deja vu thing? Like, is that something different? Can you kind of explain to us what is that?
So yeah, I will explain things just from my perspective, and that's all I can really say is just my perspective on these things. So at the point that we passed, right? Let me start by saying this: we are a lot more powerful than we have been taught. We have you are not taught in school just how powerful you are. If we had been taught in school how powerful we are, we probably would not pay attention to as many things as we do pay attention to and get distracted by. Your attention is very powerful. We are very powerful souls. One of the one of my favorite sayings is that we are not humans having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And that really shines more of a light on it for me. And so our souls are very powerful. And at the point that we pass, our soul is able to journey a lot of different places at once. And we do reach out to those who have an awareness, who will connect with us, who will understand. When our souls send out those messages, okay, that I'm leaving or I'm going or I'm returning home, okay. As far as deja vu is concerned, our power extends well beyond, like I said, what we have been taught. And oftentimes what happens is that even in our sleeping hours, our souls will go off and do work, okay. Our souls will be involved in things. Our souls will travel. Will engage in different activities, if you will. And so don't think for 1 minute that your soul just goes where your body does, okay? Because your soul is capable of going ahead of the body, okay? It has the potential to, because we all do, we get a chance to review our lives before they happen and after they happen. This is a sort of an experiment, if you will, each one of our lives. And we get a chance to really dissect it. We get a chance to plan certain things out. We get a chance to choose the parents that we're going to be born to. We get a chance to choose some of the circumstances and the people that we're going to meet in our lives, all for the purpose of helping us to reach our goals, our soul's goals in this lifetime. So, a lot of the pictures of deja vu are us just revisiting or remembering a journey that we've already taken, something that we've already seen. And in the greater scheme of things, in the spirit world, there is no such thing as time. There's no such thing as past, present, and future. So you are able to sort of be and exist in these places simultaneously. So, it's a question of whether we're actually remembering or are we projecting? But I definitely think that deja vu is just a return to a certain point in time.
That's deep, Will.
Thank you for letting me get one off.
Y'all will get real deep. So any more questions before we wrap up? Anything else? Look, I see people talking about what they've already scheduled with you already.
Oh, wow.
In the chat. I love it. So, Will, just thank you. Thank you for being generous with your time. Thank you for being generous with your gift. Thank you for being a good friend. And thank you for engaging with us in our community. I really, really, really appreciate it. So you have unleashed Tiana through her reading with her focus on mindfulness and what she should be focused on. So I know that we are going to be incorporating a lot more of it. That's one thing that Will said to me in my last reading. He said, Janai, there's a lot going on in the world, and what we do at Thank Me Later, how important it is and how it's important that we incorporate, you all need the tactical strategic stuff, but this is also the part that you all need a lot too. So that's literally what he said to me in my last reading. So I'm being obedient to what you shared, and so is Tiana. So we will continue some different type of programming. But again, please engage with Will. Thank you for engaging with us.
I
Yeah.
just like to thank you for the invitation. Thank you to the Thank Me Later community, for everyone that came out tonight, everyone that is continuing to support afterwards, and just yeah, it was really wonderful. And for those of you who just may have additional questions, feel free to go to my website and you can drop your questions in the email section there, and I will try my best to try to answer those questions as soon as I possibly can.
Was someone getting ready to ask something before I wrap us up? I didn't want to make sure I didn't. Saw a couple people come on. All right, Tiana, you want to just announce our session for next week while we have everybody's attention, and
Sure.
we'll say goodnight.
Yes, so we have a few more great sessions this month. So next Wednesday, January 19th at 7 p.m., we will have Black Wills Matter with Tiffany McKenzie, an estate planning attorney. And so we really want everybody to make a commitment, if you don't already have one, to get your will completed. Just as much as your life matters, your will matters, and you do not want to leave your family in a mess. When you pass away, there's going to happen for all of us. We just don't know when. So let's be prepared. So Tiffany is going to break down exactly step by step how the process of getting your will done, in addition to what is a trust, how do you get that done? How do you know that you need one? So things like that. So that's going to be next Wednesday. So look out in the community for that invite. And then, and just for backtrack, if you guys are new to the community or need a refresher, in August, Tiffany did do a session about your healthcare power of attorney and your power of attorney documents. So you can catch the replay and download those forms in the community if you search for estate planning in the search bar. So she's going to do a follow-up session next week specifically about wills and trusts, as that was something we couldn't get to last time. And then we have the premiere of the Thank Me Later real life episode, how to turn your stay-at-home mom dream into a reality. So an amazing woman named Chantel Boyce, who was previously working, doing her thing, she decided that it was best for her and her family for her to become a stay-at-home mom. And we want you to see that it's possible if that's what is best for you and that's what you want. So we want to show you the steps of doing that. So that will premiere on the 26th. And then our final programming for January will be on Saturday, the 29th, with Michelle Davis, a yoga instructor, who's going to take us through some exercises, some yoga poses, so that we can create our own yoga flow in 2022, in addition to other tips, mindfulness tips, breathing techniques, so that we can stay grounded and do the inner work throughout the year. So stay tuned for invites for all of those sessions.
Yeah. So shameless plug for Michelle. Will talks to Michelle too. So, you know, we got these metaphysical, say, what's the right way to say it, Will? Metaphysicians? What? What am I trying to say? Is he frozen? Will looks like he's frozen.
Yeah, it looks like he's frozen, like metaphysical physicians.
These metaphysical physicians, Michelle and Will actually talk to each other. They support each other as people who are kind of in this space. So Michelle is amazing, amazing, amazing. I promise you're going to learn a lot, but again, it's going to help us with our journey, our personal journey with our relationship with money, and our relationship with ourselves. So please tune into that. So thank y'all. I'm so glad that y'all are here. And
yeah, the reminder that so I'm sorry guys, I've been typing it in wrong. Right now the promo code is Thank Me Later with spaces. I think Will say he would add it without spaces, but he was on the call when we noticed that. So you could stay tuned for that, or you could try to use the one with spaces. And I think that's all. We can wrap.
Thank y'all. Y'all have an amazing evening, and we'll see y'all next week with Tiffany McKenzie. Good night, everybody.
Bye.